All right, we've had a lot of fun on the Joe Gaither Show on Football Friday, and we've been joined by Katie Windham and Austin Hannon. Katie Windham, the senior writer at BamaCentral.com, and Austin Hannon, the lead football writer at BamaCentral.com. Please make sure you check them out at Katie Windham _ and at Austin Hannon _ on the social media machines at BamaCentral.com and all over the place on the social media machines at BamaCentral SI, Alabama Crimson Tide on Sports Illustrated on Facebook, and BamaCentral on the X/Twitter machine. All right, we're at the business end of the show. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 SEC games, 2 bonus games that kind of go as, big picture, national picture games. We will do Alabama at the end, give you some time to think about it. Alabama, the line will be -20. Both Katie and Austin are on 2-week winning streaks. I am 5-1 so far. So everybody getting back on track with the Alabama picks against the spread, obviously for entertainment purposes only. If you are gambling on our picks, you're doing that at your own risk, at your own discretion. All right, so we're going to start 11 a.m. Vanderbilt at Georgia. Georgia hasn't given up a touchdown to Vanderbilt, I think, since 2015. Vanderbilt should be ranked, Austin Hannon?
No. Vanderbilt should not be ranked. It's going to be a long day for the Commodores, unfortunately, for my hometown team back in Nashville, Tennessee. They're still amidst the construction zone. And Georgia's going to go in there and do what they've been doing. They did it to Kentucky last week, which it'll be interesting to see if there's a little bit of a letdown there after beating Kentucky like that. But knowing Kirby Smart and knowing Scott Cochran and the people that are inside that program, I'd say those chances are pretty low. I got a stat somewhere here. Vandy has allowed 36 or more points in each of the past 5 games.
Oh.
Doesn't set up very well. And Georgia just put up 51 last week. So, we can go on to the next game. Georgia's going to take this one pretty handedly.
Katie, we all in agreement. The dogs are going to be barking?
Yep, easily.
Okay. All right. Really interesting game. Texas A&M, 4-2. Y'all saw them in person last weekend, going to Neyland Stadium, 2:30. Number 19, Tennessee, 4-1. Tennessee was off last week. Katie Windham, you're up first. How are we feeling about the Aggies going to Knoxville? Big game for both squads.
Yeah, I've kind of gone back and forth on this one. Because it is at home in Knoxville for the Volunteers. But I think A&M's going to be a little fired up after what happened last week. Even though, like you said, this is a really big game for both teams. I guess is Tennessee's coming off a bye?
Yes.
They're 4-1, I'm assuming.
Yes.
They're only a 3-point favorite at home. They are right. I think I'm going to go A&M.
Okay. Gig 'em for Katie Windham. Austin?
All right, so this was my upset 1 of 2 this week in the SEC, and I'm on board with Katie. I just think this is a huge spot for Jimbo Fisher because you lose that game last week that a lot of people thought you were going to win, and it would have been a huge win for their program, and they didn't win it. And now you go on the road. You're playing a Tennessee team that's still a little unproven. They lost that terrible game in the Swamp, but since then I've been pretty high on them. I think they've bounced back in a nice way. I still don't. They're great at running the football. Tennessee is. I still don't know how good they are at passing the football. And let's think about Texas A&M real quick. What is Texas A&M good at defending? They're good at defending the run. And we saw Alabama torch the secondary last week. But can Tennessee do the same thing? I don't know. And so because of that, I think A&M comes in ready to go. I think they are very hungry for a big win after dropping the one last week. And I think they go into Neyland Stadium and beat the Volunteers.
Bump my microphone as I often do. I'm going opposite you guys. A&M has not won a road game in quite some time in the SEC. I think I'm reading since 2021. So I think Tennessee motivated off a week's rest. Alabama beats A&M twice in 2 weeks, so I'm going with Tennessee. I'm going with Tennessee there. So I'll take the lone stance there. Okay. Florida is on the road at South Carolina. Florida 4-2, coming off a win against Vanderbilt. South Carolina off a bye week. Austin, you'll go first this time. Are you taking the Gators or are you taking the Fighting Shane Beamers?
I hate to do this to my girlfriend who works at the University of South Carolina, but this is upset number 2 of the week. I think too many people are jumping, which I was one of them a couple weeks ago. I jumped off the Florida bandwagon for that Kentucky game. But I still haven't seen enough improvement from that South Carolina offensive line. They're not giving any help to Spencer Rattler. He's getting sacked 100 times a game. They've got good receivers, but it's about getting the ball to them. I think we saw Florida against Tennessee look great up front. They look fast, physical, strong. And that does not bode well for that South Carolina offensive line. That is one of the worst in the conference. I'm going Gators to get the win in Columbia. It's gonna be a great game. I wish I could see more of it. It's not at night though; it's in the afternoon. But I am going Florida to get a huge win on the road.
I was thinking about going Florida, but just to switch it up, I'll go South Carolina. They are the favorite. Kind of like you talked about, Jimbo's in an interesting spot. Shane Beamer, like obviously he's still early in his career at South Carolina, but I mean, they're sitting at 2-4 right now, or 2-3, excuse me. If you drop this game at home, you're not in a great position. So I'm going to go South Carolina at home.
Katie, I'm going to join you. Florida is Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde away from Ben Hill Griffin Stadium. Inside the swamp, they're very good. They have played very poorly outside the swamp, and I think that's going to continue. I'll go with South Carolina as well. So Austin
key stat there. I talked about up front, Florida's going to dominate that game. South Carolina wants to throw the football, and Florida is 14th in the entire country in passing defense. So
okay,
going to be tough sledding for the Gamecocks, I think.
Well, Austin's been pretty spot on with his pick so far. We'll see if he stands alone and is a winner with the Florida Gators. All right, 6 p.m., the Tigers versus Tigers down in Death Valley. Auburn, Hugh Freeze off last week. They're 3-2, going to number 22 LSU, who is 4-2. Katie, you'll be up first. Are you taking the West Georgia War Eagles?
No, I'm going to give LSU. Until I see Auburn win an SEC game, I'm going to not pick them probably. And I mean, on the road at Tiger Stadium at night, this LSU team's pretty talented. They did just escape with a win from the other Tigers in Missouri. But I think LSU wins this one at home.
Yeah, I mean, a lot's been said this week, and for good reason, about the LSU defense and them giving up all the points and the yards that they are. But I don't see the Auburn offense doing that. Right. It's a balance of bad offense against bad defense. And when it's a night game in Death Valley, I'm going to favor the bad defense over the bad offense. I think Auburn's going to continue to struggle, and LSU gets it done at home.
I'm with you. I think that LSU is going to be able to put up a lot of points, and Auburn will not be able to keep up with them somehow, some way. I think Brian Kelly is going to win that home game. So Auburn will drop to 3-3. 6:30, our last SEC game before we get to Alabama. Missouri 5-1 at Kentucky. Number 24 Kentucky coming off a big time butt whooping against Georgia. Katie Windham. No, Katie went first last time. Austin, are you going Missouri or Big Blue Nation?
I got to go with my Cats. I rode with them in a similar game a couple weeks ago in Florida. It's at Kroger Field. It's in Lexington. I haven't really circled that one as a huge challenge for Alabama in November, but I think Kentucky's really good at home. And I think people forgot that Missouri lost to LSU last week on both sides of that. I think people forgot LSU beat them in Columbia and didn't really take that win for as big of a win as it was because Missouri's a good football team. Now they got to go on the road to Kentucky, and Kentucky's ready to go after getting, absolutely just dominated disgustingly last week in Athens. They need a win back home, and I think they get it over the Tigers.
I'm going to go Missouri because they lost that game last week against LSU. Really a game I think they're going to be kicking themselves that they should have won. Kentucky, I think, maybe got exposed a little bit last week against Georgia. And I just keep thinking more and more about the point that Steve made on the Mississippi State show a couple weeks ago about if Kentucky was in the West and Mississippi State was in the East, and just how being in the East kind of overlooks some things, which obviously both Kentucky and Missouri are. But I just never have a lot of faith in Mark Stoops, and maybe he'll prove me wrong, but I'm going to go Missouri.
I'm going with Missouri as well. I wonder how Mark Stoops' comments will land with his own players. Oh, you guys, if y'all are upset, fans, if you're upset, you can donate to our NIL fund to get us better players. I wonder how that's going to set. He's right. He's absolutely right. But I wonder how the locker room is going to receive that, if that's going to be kind of a contentious point. And I think Missouri just has a lot of momentum. Yeah, they lost to LSU last week, but I think they found a way in many of these games to stay in them and to win a lot of them. Obviously, didn't work out in the last 4 minutes of the game against LSU this past week, but I think their talent probably shined through just a little bit there. Y'all want to go Alabama next, or you want to go the two off the board out of conference games next? Austin, your pick.
Let's go off the board.
Perfect. I like Oregon and Washington, 2:30, undefeated, both 5-0. Washington is a 3-point favorite. You don't have to pick against the line, but how are you feeling about this Pac-12 matchup?
I think both these teams are really good. Both have shown some good things. The Pac-12, like Austin said earlier, though, is just wacky. I mean, last week, that USC game late at night got hooked into that when I did not need to. And, they're supposed to be good and just I don't know. But I think because I think both these teams are so good and it's so tight, I'm going to give the edge to the home team and go with Washington.
All right, big stat. All right. This game's been circled for me huge. I hope I get home in time to watch it. Me and Blake Byler have been going back and forth about this game all year. I've been Team Oregon. He's been Team Washington, but I cannot believe I'm doing this. I'm switching the pick this week. Something has come into me this week that I believe the Huskies are going to get it done, and it's because of our old friend Bo Nix. Here's the stat that you want to hear for this game. In his Oregon career, exactly where I'm going with this. In his Oregon career, first of all, this game's in Seattle. Bo Nix is 26 touchdowns to 2 interceptions in Eugene. Away from home, he has 28 touchdowns and 15 interceptions on the road in his Oregon career. I think it's going to be a shootout. Both offenses are awesome. I think Bo Nix makes a couple too many mistakes, and the Huskies stay undefeated in the Pac-12.
I'm going 3 for 3. Washington, Michael Penix. They're going to take a big step forward towards the college football playoff. The last off the board game is the battle for the Jewel Shillelagh over there in South Bend. Number 10 USC at number 21 Notre Dame. Katie Windham talking about that 3 overtime game against Arizona last week for USC. Notre Dame a 2.5-point favorite. And they lost last week to Louisville, correct? They've lost to Ohio State and now Louisville. Austin, you're up first. Are you taking the Fighting Irish at home? Or are you taking Caleb Williams and Lincoln Riley?
I'm going to do the unpopular thing here, which it doesn't seem like it should be that way. With Notre Dame losing 2 games, they are the favorite by a couple points. I believe 3. It's in South Bend. Everybody wanted to jump on USC last week after they kind of nearly got away with that win over Arizona at home, which was not good. I watched it in the hotel over in Texas, but I think this is going to be one of those games where Caleb Williams takes over. I think the Heisman in him takes over. He puts together a massive game against a great Notre Dame defense, and USC is able to find a way to stay undefeated, and they went on the road, and Notre Dame is scrambling with 3 losses.
Before you pick, Katie, let me jump in and ask your opinion on Lincoln Riley's comments this week saying our bad defense is just a media narrative, and then make your pick.
I did not hear that quote, but what I was going to say about this game is when I watched USC last week, that defense looked horrible. I mean, they couldn't even tackle against a team that lost.
Oh, no, Katie, that's just your media narrative.
I mean, they almost lost. They should have lost at home to an Arizona team that lost to one of the worst teams in the SEC. So, I don't know. The USC defense looked bad to me, which the Notre Dame offense has not exactly been lighting it up. Only scored, I think, 14 against Ohio State, 21 against Duke, and that touchdown came at the last minute. Let's see. I think they scored only 20 points last week at Louisville. So their offense had
one of them was trash time, too.
Yeah, this USC defense may be like the antidote to that. So because it is in South Bend, even though they did lose to Ohio State there, I'm going to go with Notre Dame. With their backs
I'm going with
the
Katie.
2 losses there.
I'm going with you. Hail, hail to Notre Dame. I think that Caleb Williams and them guys are not going to be able to.
It's a big week. A big week. I'm Jon Snow against the Army right now this week, and I like that.
That's okay. That's all right. You've been pretty spot on with your picks. I think we've all taken at least one solo pick. You were solo with Florida. You were solo with Kentucky. And I think I was solo with Tennessee. So there we go. That'll be a lot of fun as we get into the weekend. Once again, now our eyes will be all focused on Alabama hosting Arkansas. Homecoming week. Get out to the new parade route, 7 a.m. If you're going to be celebrating the parade. You can see the hungover sorority girls. You can see you can see all the cool cars. And you can see, obviously, the $1 Million Band marching over and over and over down University Boulevard at 7 a.m. tomorrow. It's going to be a huge day. It's going to be a lot of fun. 11 a.m. Do not look up into the sun in the second quarter. Keep your eyes on the field. Don't hurt yourself. You won't see the rest of the game if you do. And that'll be very sad for everyone. So Alabama, 20-point favorite, trying to keep control of the SEC West. 5-1 on the year, going against Arkansas. 2-4, lost 4 in a row. 0-3 in the SEC. Austin, why don't you make your pick first, Katie, and then myself, and we'll round it out.
second straight week, I'm not very confident in this pick. I did say Alabama last week, and they did end up covering. I'm not confident in this one either, but I do think Arkansas covers that giant number. I don't think it's very close. I think it's going to be a slight cover. I think it was at 19.5. Now it's at 20. I already thought it was a little too much at 19.5. I think Alabama probably wins the game by 17, 18. But I just think the 11 a.m. kickoff, they're not used to that. They haven't woke up that early this year. I think it's going to be a little bit of a groggy game early on. And I think Arkansas plays a little better. I've been talking a big game about them this week. I do think they're better than that 2-4 record. I think they show up with a little bit of fight on Saturday. I think they play loose. I think they make a couple plays to keep this game, in the distance. I don't think it'll be a close football game, but I think they hang around a little bit, and Alabama wins it by about 17.
There we go. I like that pick. I like the analysis. Katie Windham, the lead writer, the senior writer at BamaCentral.com. How are you feeling about this matchup?
Look, throughout this week, starting with Monday up until last night on Hey Coach, Saban has talked about you can't ever look Arkansas, you can't ever look them because of their record. Yesterday Pat McAfee said like 3 times on his show something about Alabama being a 20-point favorite, and then last night on Hey Coach said that guy kept saying 20 points.
Did you see the glare he gave McAfee at the end?
Yeah. I knew, if any of us said anything to him in the press conference about them being a 20-point favorite, he would just lose his ever-loving mind. But McAfee said it 3 times, and he has to control his tongue because of that $1 million paycheck he's getting. But a lot of times when he says stuff like this, but we can't overlook the opponent, he's normally saying it because either the team is not focused or because it's just something he's trying to drill in all week. So which one is it with this team? I think maybe at the beginning of the week they were still kind of riding high from that A&M win. So I think he's been instilling it in them this whole week. And then I just think this Arkansas defense is going to have trouble scoring on Alabama. So I'm going to pick Alabama to cover.
Austin, Coach Saban's setting you up, man. He's setting you up. I think this is going to be pretty big.
Come on, right? Do it, Joe. Do it, Joe. Jump on the bad Arkansas. Do it.
Earlier in the show, I've been thinking about what my final score was going to be and if it was going to fall on the line. I wrote down 35-13. And so that puts it at a 22-point win. I think you're going to see Arkansas can't score. They cannot score on this defense. There's not going to be any sort of way you're going to have Dallas Turner, Chris Braswell in the backfield all game long. You're not going to be able to run the ball. KJ Jefferson's going to throw a pick 6 to Terry Arnold or somebody like that. Okay. I think a late touchdown to go onto your groggy performance. I do think you're right on that. I think a late Alabama touchdown down the field, Coach Saban trying to take the air out of the ball, puts Alabama over the line. I'm taking 35-13. Alabama covers.